Good morning, gang. Ken Hackathorn here, my buddy Paul Howe. Another episode of the Gun Guys coming to you from the WilsonCombat YouTube channel. Today, Paul and I are going to talk about a few things that might be of interest to you. I kind of refer to this as trainers and commentators. If you've been in the training business long enough, we made a lot of observations. And Paul's been at it for a long time. I was at it for a long time. I'm now retired, but I've had a chance, once you do step back, to kind of look at a bigger picture. Because sometimes your focus is on that arena that you're in. And when you step back from it and kind of take the broader view, sometimes it's actually clearer. So we're going to bounce back and forth about some comments and questions about training techniques, weapons, popular approaches today. I'd like to start off with one is, okay, and I think we kind of agree on this, Paul, but one of the big crazes you see in the gun culture today, you'll see a picture of a firearm, a pistol, and they typically have a red dot sight on them and a light on the gun. That's kind of the given, package. Mounting a light on a pistol, what is your view of the pluses and minuses of a light on a handgun?
Ken, appreciate you having me. I've been a mentor for like 35 years, and so
I'm sorry I misguided you down the path.
No, but this is huge, and I'm glad I can kind of still pick your brain and get to visit. And equipment evolves, and we're going to get gadgets. That's what the industry is all about: selling widgets, gadgets, a little change here or there. It's going to make me a better shooter. So I go no, and then the answers to the test. It's good practice, perfect practice will make you a better shooter. And dedication to the art. And what happens is when I start seeing all this in lights, and I go, okay, let's talk about it. Does it dovetail into your tactics? So we have to clear our house, So I'm moving one end of my house to another. Do I use a gun light? And do I sweep my kids? Do I sweep other family members potentially? So you've got to go, all right, is it better to have a handheld? So I'm handheld. I have a gun light. So when I have work around SWAT people, I look like a SWAT person. I carry the same equipment, but 90% of the time I'm using a handheld. And the rationale is this, you clear a room outside. So we pie using a light, we turn it back off, we come back and retake our hallway. If I'm taking the hallway and I'm doing a dirty, clean, dirty, looking where I'm going, where I'm, came from and back where I'm going. If I use a gun light, what am I doing? I'm sweeping the whole world. So you have to learn, and this is where it goes into your fundamentals, how to shoot strong hand only. And we teach a couple different flashlight techniques, a left-hand barricade, right-hand barricade. We keep it real simple. I'm into strong arm only because what happens is anytime you put all the different bends, you create variables in your shooting plan. So it's okay. It's extra weight, maintenance, batteries. A handheld, my offside is my day-to-day carry. And as we get older, in East Texas, we have things that bite you and sting and everything else. Before I stick my hand into dark areas, I white light it, I clear it. Oh, you bet, because you know the deal. Something can, Jake.
If it can bite, it will.
Yes, and so I have no problem with it if people want to use it. But again, if you're putting one light on nightstand, we do low light courses and we let them shoot both. But the primary is handhelds.
Yeah, back, when I was a SWAT cop, obviously everybody wanted a light on their gun. And it does have some applications in that environment. In the one where we're going in, for example, okay, somebody's going to climb up and clear the attic. Or somebody's going to look under the crawl space, or there's places you have to look. And at close quarters, a long gun, manipulation-wise, can be hard. So a handgun and a weapon mounted light, when you're holding on to a ladder or pushing a door out of the way or whatever, there's an application for it. What I tell people is, now everybody wants to be a cool kid and have all these gadgets in their gun. Okay, you carry a gun, and especially if you're in the private sector, you're not a soldier, you're not, in law enforcement. If you carry a gun with a light on it, when's the last time you needed that? Yeah. And most people, if they're honest, will tell you, well, not really. I had a guy tell me, well, yeah, but if I have to change a tire, I go, are you an idiot?
But that's happened.
Oh, I remember seeing a picture in a newspaper of, it was an accident scene individual was being, treated by the medics, the EMT guys that showed up, and here's a police officer with his pistol, light on, doing this so they can see what they're doing. Yeah. And I remember I cut out the paper, I don't know where it's at, but I thought, okay, this is what you're not supposed to do. Yeah.
Pull it off, make it a handheld, put the whole, and
yeah. Well, the bottom line is, I think lights in today's world are extremely overrated. Again, if it's the gun on your nightstand, that's different. But I'm even like you. I've got a gun on my nightstand with a light on it, and there's a surefire flashlight right beside it. So if I pick up one, I pick up the other. Yeah. So, and I will be the first to admit, it's easier to shoot a weapon-mounted light pistol more effectively, more accurately than it is to do it this way. Yeah. But in the real world, especially if you're talking about clearing your home or searching your business, whatever, remember, in the real world, gunfights or shootouts take place at distances the width of a car or the length of a car. And if you haven't practiced and learned, or you need, I think one of the most neglected shooting techniques in the world, because like you, I've traveled outside of CONUS and trained a lot of folks. The most probably neglected shooting technique and out there today is people do not know how to shoot strong hand only. Correct. And most of the time, as soon as they do it, they collapse. Their proficiency goes down, and so they're going to always default back. Well, I know I can shoot good with two hand. Yeah, cool. But in the real world, you don't get that option all the time.
Well, you said clearing too. I mean, there's times you don't have the probable cause, justification. Your wife gets kind of pissed when she gets a gun pointed at her. So if you come home and there's an open door, you don't know if they left it. So you can keep a hand on your pistol. You can do a lot of different models without presenting the weapon and clearing it, just like you're getting ready, or hand on weapon and clearing, but you're not pointing the weapon. Good. And so we need to clean stuff and get people more, all right, it doesn't look right, look, I can clear it. We can use flashlights daytime to clear dark areas, and we've got the lumens now. The little one I've got in my pocket is, I think, 1700 lumens. So we can turn it into daytime. But the problem is everyone wants to bring a gun with it. There's not a lot of times you really need that gun. A lot of times we're just visually clearing and cleaning it, even at night, coming in to your carport, you saw something, you can roll down your window, white light stuff, you can use your headlights of your car. Do you need to bring your gun with you? Well, it needs to be with you and ready, but you don't want to point guns at your kids. We have rules, and my daughter knew if she came home late at night, she called us before she came in, or stopped, beeped her horn. In the country where we live, you beep your horn before you go up to somebody's house at night. You just don't show up to the front door, because you had the one incident we talked about, and it's not a good recipe for a first meet.
It's not a smart move.
Yes, yes.
Now let me throw another one at you. Big discussion now. Is it better to carry a little gun or what we call a big gun as far as proficiency? And here's the case. I get this a lot of times, guys have got a little gun, pocket rocket, and they say, well, I'm just going to run down to the corner store. I'm going to the carry out. I'll just go ahead and put that 5-shot cheap in my pocket, or that little 380 or whatever that little pocket rocket is. And my answer to that is, when you walk down into that carry out to get whatever it is you went to get, that 12 pack of beer or gallon of milk, whatever, and you walk in there and the guy behind the counter's like this.
Yes.
And now you say, okay, do you want a little pocket rocket or do you want a big gun you can shoot? Well, at that point in time, the gun you took for convenience is now suddenly become probably your worst decision of your life, as far as now your life is on the line.
Yes.
What's your read on it?
All right, you told me a long time ago, and I remember everything, of what's the best gun? It's the one in your hand. Yeah. Now, do people shoot their standards with that gun? I have a set of standards to train on. You shot yours yesterday, I shoot mine. Would I take a hammerless, my 22 mag, and shoot that? Yes. Can I make the hits? I look at, can I make a headshot with it at 7 yards on a hostage type scenario? And if I can't do that, then it's not a viable gun. It's a comfort gun. And so, you said it in the day, a lot of people carried the little 38s. But when they got in a fight, what'd they want? A bigger gun.
Yeah, I can remember back in the copper days when everybody had a 2-inch for off duty.
Yes.
Or in my case, it was a back of a gun. But guys, when they're off duty, they'd carry that. And my theory was look, if you ever need it,
yes,
wouldn't you rather have that 4-inch Model 10 in your hand than that 2-inch 36? So yeah, I think we agree on that. The good news is, if you look at the WilsonCombat product line, they make full-size service pistols. They make little compact pistols. They also make mid-size.
Yes.
And in many ways, the mid-size, that's why I think in the world today, probably the most popular self-defense sidearm certainly in America, as far as that mid-size, is a Glock 19. I mean, it covers all the bases.
Men, women, everybody.
Everybody. It's a great gun. So I think the mid-size is kind of, as we get down the road, right now the pocket rockets are what everybody wants. And there's some good ones, like this little SIG 365. It's a superb gun.
And I'm looking at them. So we've got a lot of bullets in that gun.
Yeah, you got
twice as many as the old revolver days.
Yeah, so the kicker is you pick and choose wisely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that is tougher to shoot than a Glock 19, a bigger gun. Yeah. Are they going to put the mileage in? Do they have the mental distance? Do they dry fire it? And so, that's the big question.
And by the way, the answer to that, Paul, is no, they don't. Now, the 1%ers, the hardcore gun guy shooters, the guys that go to the range every week, the guys that shoot competitively, the guys that you say, how many rounds do you shoot? The guys say, well, I shoot 10,000 rounds a year. That's 1%. Yes. The average cop, the average citizen, the average soldier.
Yes.
They don't shoot much at all, and they sure don't dry fire.
No, I'm kind of in reverse. I dry fire 10,000 times and maybe shoot a little bit, but I have to do the shooting a little, the recoil management. That's what you lose on dry fire. That's the only thing. You will make a first round hit if you dry fire and you do it properly.
Yeah. And that's the most important shot you're going to fire.
Yes. Always.
And people look at now, I got to have a gun that holds a lot of bullets. And you say, and why? Well, because what if I'm up against 5 adversaries? And the reality is, again, you're talking about possibilities, not probabilities. In the real world, it's 1, maybe 2.
Yes,
and by the way, when the bullets start flying, everybody starts moving.
Oh, yes.
And if the people you're dealing with are in the process of committing a crime, their goal is to get out of there.
Yes.
This is not a hit team coming to get you. These are guys that, once they realize this isn't going the way they want it to, they're beating feet. So this thing about saying, well, I want a gun that holds at least 15 rounds, and my answer is why? If you want it, cool.
I ask you, what do you do with the first 13?
Yeah. And when people ask me quite often, they say, well, what do you think the capacity should be a gun? And that's a big argument today.
Yes.
And what I tell people is, from my belief, based upon my experience of training military, law enforcement, and the private sector, is generally speaking, I would say a minimum of a 10-round magazine, probably a maximum of 15.
Yes.
And if you look in the private sector, very rarely do people fire more than 3 or 4 shots. It's generally, because in that 3 or 4 shots, 1 of 3 things have happened. 1, they've ran away.
Yes.
2, they've went down.
Yes.
3, they've given up.
Yes.
And the first one's the number 1. When you start shooting, they start moving.
Well, if you look at Nashville, the most recent active shooter, how many shots did that rifle guy shoot? I think it was 3. Yeah. And what's going to happen is, you make a solid connect on the first one, the target is going to fall.
It's moving.
Yes.
It's turning.
And then you've got to, but you just can't keep hammering that trigger, because those bullets are, you've got to see a front sight every time.
I tell people that when you did the video for WilsonCombat a number of years ago about discrimination, target discrimination, probably, in my opinion, one of the best videos that WilsonCombat ever put up. Very low number of views, which is sad.
Yeah.
A year or so back, Bill and I did one about basically bullet effects. What happens when you hit a target? And we were talking about shot placement is always 1. Then you can worry about things like bullet design and caliber. But shot placement is number 1. By the way, that particular video got very little views. But I tell people, for example, one of the things you see on the internet now is this argument about, these guys are argument. They want to demonstrate that they can do a 2-second bill drill.
Yeah.
That's the holy grail for some of these guys. And I had a guy tell me, I can put 6 shots in you, in a bill drill before you know what's going on. I go, no, actually you can't. And what they don't understand is, you put up a target and staple it up, it can't move.
Yes.
And you can stand there and shoot 6 shots fast. and put them in the A zone and say, and by the way, Bill explained in that video that in the original bill drill, that the goal was the 3 seconds with 6 shots in the A zone. If you threw one out, it was an instant fail. Time meant nothing. But I tell people, once you start shooting, and in that video I mentioned what I call the bee sting effect. When people get hit, it's like a bee sting. Nobody gets stung by a bee and goes, Everybody does instantly react. It's involuntary.
Yes.
When you start taking rounds, what do most people do? Immediately turn and to run. The natural thing is, I want to get away from the thing that can hurt me. Now you got a moving, twisting, turning target.
Yes.
So you're shooting, target is no longer looking at you. It changed angles. Now you're going to have misses. Where are those bullets going?
Yes.
And the next thing is, by the time you get off that third, you're like, oh man, I got 18 splits, right? I'm really cool. Well, by the time you get to that third shot, that entry wound is now into the back of your adversary. And you say, well, but the first one was here. Well, you know what? When you go before the grand jury, you don't, the case does.
Yeah.
And they look at that surveillance video. Remember, there's surveillance video cameras everywhere in America now.
Yeah.
You probably live in an area, and I know I live in one where there aren't many of them.
Yes.
You know, but the bottom line is, when they look at the evidence and they say, well, you shot this young man in the prime of his life, never mind the fact that he's a slug, but you shot him in the back.
Yeah.
And now guess what? The dynamics of that whole situation has changed. Now you're the bad guy. You executed him. Yeah. So when you say things like, I practice bill drills, okay, but don't get too serious about it.
Exactly. So many things have been lost and not transferred. The little things, raising your front sight above your notch for a mover, because what you have on a mover now, everybody says, well, I'm going to shoot the button. Well, he doesn't have a button that day. You have a right edge.
He's got that hoodie on today.
Yes, he's got a right edge, left edge, and I can run. If he starts running, I can do that front sight above and make a good hit. But people forget about this. It hasn't been passed on. And so, it's one of those things that's huge. It almost takes somebody like you or me to go into court and say, here's really what happened, and win the jury and say, look, he practiced this drill. That person turned in that heat of the moment and he didn't see his front sight because, the original intent was there, and it was justified. Is he still justified? Yes. But somebody's got to win the jury and teach them, here's the training methodology, here's what he did, here's why that happened. And so that's huge right now, because you're exactly, we have ring cameras all over. I have them, we have video surveillance at my house. I have to know where the dead zones are, where nothing's filmed.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so do cameras dictate? No, you have to have a system, whether you're filmed or not filmed, and do the same thing every time.
Yeah. All right, and one of the next ones I'm going to bounce off, and we've talked about it already, but I just want to hit it very lightly. Red dot sights.
Yes, I have no problem. I avoided them on rifles for a really long time. And what happens is I go, okay, pros, cons. I actually do a fixed 3 on my rifle. And so I want to be able to discriminate at distance. I want to compact. I can take that rifle easy. It's fast, low maintenance. If I do all the mechanics, that is a problem. And here's the problem. Well, it has advantages, but mechanically right now, there's a lot of issues. The weather, the batteries. I want to see how long they last in Chicago in the wintertime. And then it requires a very, very precise point of aim. Up close, do you need that? Is it, to me, if I was going to do bullseye shooting and we're going to competition, yes, that's what I would run. 25, time limits are luxurious, but in a fast fight, no. And then the extra maintenance, all right, are we going to go back to flap holsters for those? Why? Because the environmental. You're in a convoy, you get off a helicopter, it gets dusted. Are you going to take your glove and wipe it out and get it to where you can see? You're going to co-witness your iron sights with it, because they have to be there, because if it's dot, we have case histories now, up close, this close, it started the fight and he couldn't find his red dot. So did he put his 3,000 round mileage in there? No. Mm-hmm. So, and law enforcement, you hit it on the head. They're not going to train. They want a cheap fix. And there is no cheap fixes. And chiefs want that. And the guys go, oh, I got another gadget. This is cool. Yeah, it's cool. It's entertainment. It's not training. Like we said, I'm going to go to the grave, iron sights on a pistol.
Yeah, and I tell people, if you're willing to put the time in and the effort, and I tell people, to me, a red dot sight is like a 1911 design pistol. It's an enthusiast tool.
Yes.
It takes a higher level of skill and maintenance to keep it going.
Exactly.
If you're in that lifestyle, if you
Yes.
accept that, then putting a red dot on your gun will make more sense. But if you're not willing to put the effort and the training and the trigger time in, I think it's probably a bad pursuit
Oh, yes.
for what you're getting. And people tell me, well, up close, don't worry about the dot. Just put your target, your aiming area in the center of the screen.
Yeah.
The reality is, in the real world, if you want to shut a target down quickly,
Yes.
there's about 2 areas you can do it.
Yes.
And when you're at real close range and it's real fast, and you try that, yeah, you can get a chest hit.
Yeah.
But if you want to put one into the computer, it doesn't work as well.
Yes.
And the thing I tell people, if you really think these things are, I have guys tell me, well, they're faster and more accurate than iron sights. Well, I don't drink that Kool-Aid. And if you think, I tell guys, if you really believe that,
Yeah.
Google up Air Marshal qualification course.
Yeah.
30 rounds. It's shot at 7 yards.
Yeah.
And try it with your red dot and tell me how you did, if you passed or not.
Yeah.
I've not met one guy yet who's a hot shot that could pass the Air Marshal qual with the red dot.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it's up to you. If you think it's the way to go, fine. Again, I don't care. I hope you guys got some insight. It's a luxury to have Paul here. I hope we can get you in front of the camera again.
No, I come for you because this is history and how things evolved, what you saw, how things changed, law enforcement, military, and the world evolves, but it really goes back in circles to simple, proven techniques.
Fundamentals.
Yes, and fundamentals on demand, and life is good. And so, no, I appreciate it, and I like these as a historical library of, because I want to, we can go, I've got a whole bunch of notes. You just jarred my mind on different topics, but we can't hit it all at one time.
We'll do it the next time.
Yes, sir.
Hey, brother.
All right.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Hey, hope you enjoyed it. Don't delay. Push the subscribe button. If you have questions or comments as far as the input from this, don't be afraid to put it in the comment section, and we'll do our best to address it down the road. And in the meantime, you stay safe, and we'll see you down the trail.